Hello, Rob. We're back with 6 lessons in crystal gazing, a complete course of instruction for the beginner by Dr. Mayne. Copyright 1928. And we will start with the first lesson. Lesson 1, History of Crystal Gazing. Crystal gazing, or crystal scrying, as it is commonly called, when applied to induction of visual hallucinations by concentration or steadily gazing into such as a solid glass or quartz crystal, or a sphere-shaped ball with a clear interior, is not a new invention or a fad for foretelling the future or development of the mental powers. The science of crystal gazing, which is one form of scrying, dates back almost to the scriptural account of the creation of man. It is generally assumed that crystal gazing had its origin in Egypt. A large number of beautiful crystals were found in the ruins of the old temple of Hathor in Upper Dendra, Egypt, and historians and scientists tell us that this temple was in existence over 6,000 years before the Christian era. We can trace this and other methods of obtaining hallucinatory pictures back to the Middle Ages. A short reference to the historical facts regarding crystal gazing and the worldwide use of the crystal will be made here to better acquaint the reader with this world-old science. Various methods of scrying have been traced to the 4th century AD. During the Classical and Middle Ages, crystals were employed by the Greeks and the Romans as a form of divination. Definite data is available to show the actual use of mirrors to foresee their various prophecies. However, our chief source of knowledge of continental crystal gazing in the Middle Ages is the Faust literature. The most authentic book is the Hollenzwang, 4 chapters dealing with crystal gazing and allied subjects. In Egypt, we learn that the gazer or seer placed a spot of ink in the palm of the hand, but that it was necessary that the prophet or gazer go through a certain long formulae in which it was necessary to obtain a child in the period of adolescence to do the gazing. What? According to Mustada, the pharaohs had a similar instrument in which they were able to discover the state of distant provinces and were able to provide against famines. Among various tribes of the West Indies, the liver of an animal was used as a point of concentration for scrying purposes. This, like the scrying of the Egyptians, was accompanied by a very long formulae or service in which it required a period of nearly 2 years before the party who did the scrying could obtain the visions. Crystal gazing had its equivalent among the original Indian tribes of North America and is practiced today by the remnants of the Indians in the far west. Further examination of various historical works which tend to deal with this subject inform us that during the 9th century, many pictures and illustrations were obtained by scrying, and even the voices and the tread of the characters, it is claimed, were sometimes heard. This is a form of clear audience. During the 12th century, cups and basins filled with water obtained from streams that were regarded as holy were in vogue. Mirrors and other bright objects, such as swords, which sometimes became part of the gazer's equipment, and the general populace claimed that they were possessed with machinations of the devil. In a publication of the 14th century, during which period scrying had become quite popular, we read that nearly all scrying was accomplished by the aid of quartz crystals and with barrels highly polished. It gained quite a prominent place in both the homes of the rich and poor. In this period, we learn that the crystal was concentrated before use and then placed among vessels containing incense. By the 15th century, scrying with crystals had well established itself, and from that period to the present day, it has developed into its present form. During this time, numerous interviews were held with seers who informed their subjects as to future and the things that might come to pass when God's wrath should fall upon them. At times, the popularity of scrying diminished, only to flourish in some other country. It is interesting to note the universal use of the crystal all through the past centuries, and note its prominence today. Crystal gazing achieved great popularity in the British Isles during the 14th century and has maintained that popularity to this day. Today in Japan, it is claimed that every home has its crystal, and it is consulted on all subjects considered important. Crystal gazing has been definitely traced to the Anahilei and Apache tribes of New South Wales, quartz crystals being made, polished, and used. In West Australia, the Boya crystal, the Boya or medicine man, invokes the crystal to decry. I'm failing. Oh man. In West Australia, the Boya or medicine man invokes the crystal to descry the result of distant expeditions, with remarkable success recorded. Among the Fijians, the crystal is employed by the priest to recover stolen goods, believing the image of the thief will be reflected in the crystal. In New Zealand, the more civilized Maori tribes use a drop of blood for a point of concentration. The value is not the blood, but in the mental apprehension induced by the concentration. In South America, the Huili treasure seekers look earnestly for the object of their search into a smooth slab of stone, usually black. Scryers are known as shamans. In Siberia and East Russia, where vessels of liquid are employed, the practice of crystal gazing has been prominent in Mexico and Peru for many centuries. Quartz crystals called zatsum, meaning clear stone, are used in Yucatan, and it is said that nearly every village possesses one of these precious stones. Crystal gazing has reached a very high state of efficiency in India and Arabia. Authentic stories on wonderful divination feats are told by reliable travelers from these lands. The Mohammedans of India employ the magic mirror, very much similar to the crystal, the only difference being the shape. This art is extensively practiced by the yogis and Sunakases, being in a way part of their religion. The practice is widespread in China. Employed there is the apprehension of criminals. In the apprehension of criminals, history records the existence of a crystal among the Berbers at the time of the Greek Empire. Literature prepared and written by the learned Dr. Dee. Scryer to Queen Elizabeth is still in existence. The historic crystal used by Dr. Dee, the astrologer to Queen Elizabeth, and Dr. Dee's divinations, it must be borne in mind, helped make history, is preserved in the British Museum. Other records state that Aristotle made a crystal which was employed by Alexander the Great. Colossus of Rhodes history records carried a crystal continually. Hercules placed a crystal on a tower by which he could see ships in the distant seas. Scientific research has established the fact that the world over, men of different races have made the discovery that pictures or visions may be seen in a speculum of some clear depth, which has led to an almost universal use of the crystal as we know it today. In room 2 of the North Gallery, second floor of the Chicago Art Institute, is the famous $500,000 collection of gazing crystals, said to be the finest in the country, arrayed amid surroundings weird, peaceful, and impressive enough to satisfy the most ardent seeker of the past or future. The collection is noted for its perfect specimens. It was presented to the Chicago Art Institute by the former president of the First National Bank of Chicago, Samuel M. Nickerson, and his wife. The amount expended while traveling and gathering this splendid collection was about $500,000. Crystals are in constant use in thousands of households, used for the development of the mental powers as an aiding factor in concentration and as a form of divination, prominent men and women of all walks of life consult their crystal daily. Seeking solutions to perplexing problems, science has recognized the efficiency of the crystal as an aid to concentration. Thousands are attaining success through their ability to concentrate. Concentration means success. Success means concentration. And I somehow managed to make it through that botched rendering. Now I must eat before I go to Thanksgiving dinner, which I see through the crystal gazing as unfortuitous to me. All right, Bob, that's all. Goodbye.